The corporation was trying to convince us that it's business as usual, that it's functioning as normal, but all the time it's in the active process of liquidation. That includes the UN, that includes Vatican, that includes London, that includes Swiss banking networks. It was all being seized by the Earth Alliance. Military, Department of Defense, America is the lead. The most developed military in the world, the United States of America, as they say, is the lead military in the Earth Alliance. Remember, I told y'all that they're looking for cause to start moving the National Guard in now under the martial law. It's something that we ain't noticing about the birth citizenship. That include all the judges and lawyers too. Once you become a noble with a title of nobility, right? Esquire, honorable, almost all attorneys are esquires. You are a stand-in royal. A stand-in royal is a sir. A sir is another title of nobility. If your part of the family deal with the management of land resources, then y'all become the land barons. The land barons and the family bankers are the ones secretly pulling all of the strings, because the land barons is trying to steal land that you can't take from heritable birthright. And the bankers is trying to cover it up with fraudulent contracts. The courts is the bank, right? When you at bar is what it's called. That means at the bank. A sandbar is a bank of sand that extends out into the water. So when you enter into the court, you enter into the bar or the sandbar, which is a protrusion, a peninsula of a bank, because the bank is the land surrounding the body of water that's not the sandbar, right? The reason why they call it the sandbar is the reference to the Plymouth, because they had to keep that ship out there in order to maintain the term called occupation. If you don't understand military occupation, then you don't even, that's why you can't unravel American history. The military occupation is something that happened as a result of a war and an invasion. If you go back to 2001, you can get a crash course in military occupation of two countries after 9/11, Iraq and Afghanistan. They handled both of them different, but they occupied both of them, right? One, they established a whole new leadership regime, right? And the other one, they just shifted the political party that was ruling out of the picture and put an alternative political party in power. The side effect to that is the political party they put in power was infiltrated by the political party that they ousted and then reclaimed under the same name that you put out there. And that's why they keep saying America never won a war. They say we won, but we always end up paying the bill like we losing. Look, the Cold War.
Right.
If you get a 1995, 85, 75 almanac, and you look for gross domestic product, gross national product, right? Then you look for economic aid. Go to the country of Russia, and it's going to tell you in there exactly how much annual aid Russia, the USSR, was getting from the United States. It roughly was about $6 billion a year, right? when Israel was established, America was paying Israel under the pretense of World War II reparations. So that means that we had to lose to Germany. Operation Paperclip.
Yeah,
right?
I was wondering why they was paying them, bro. You just told me that why, because I was like, damn, why we paying? They lost it. If Germany the one that did them, you know.
So they want us to think we won the First World War, the Second World War. They want us to think that the same people won the Civil War, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and the American Revolution. That's not the case. Anything that would cause what's called lose face, right? If anything caused you to lose face, that means you lose value in the presence of others. Then they have to cover that up. They don't want you to know they weak as they are, because they relying on you to let them use your strength that you don't even know you lending them.
I didn't even know that them. That's the reason why they were paying. Because I was trying to figure out, why is America paying Israel for what Germany did to them? That don't even make no sense. So now,
if you go through the almanac, almost every country America was giving economic aid to. Some of them is classified, most of them is economic aid or some kind of financial relief. Mm-hmm. And we the richest country in the world, but we paying every country in the world. Right. That don't make sense. You can't keep your status if you got a leak in your rear end.
Yeah. That's what Donald Trump said about the that we was paying $300 billion or something to Canada every year. And then I know why they pay Japan. Japan is because of the they dropped the bomb on them, and that's like international type things when they gotta but what's the deal on that? Go ahead.
The pride of the Japanese, they've been stopped accepting reparations for World War II.
Yeah.
You know what they trying to do? They trying to outdo America in auto manufacturing, clothing manufacturing, technical manufacturing, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And hold on one second now. This separate card.
Hey, y'all, if you just not tuning in, hit that like, hit that subscribe button, man. We got SikApe in the Northgate. We're going to take questions, get some of y'all questions from the crowd, man, so we can, take some of the questions y'all might have. And I got a couple of questions for Rod to start it out, and then we'll take questions from y'all. So if you're just not tuning in, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you share it. And we're going to crack heads and twist caps, man. You already know how Rod do it. We picking the lock here. We going through the time machine, and we piecing the puzzle together. Most of my questions is stimulated around. We're gonna get to your questions, Sugar Shane. Hey, most of my questions is stimulated around what's going on now. Hey, Rod. So you left off while Japan said that they don't want to take no money from U.S. dollars no more. Nobody wants the U.S. dollar for that matter.
Well, that was before BRICS.
Go ahead.
Japan is trying to outcompete in productivity and quality products. Hold on. I was working at GM. They was telling us about this guy, to start doing research on him. His name is Dr. Deming, and he came up with this quality program for productivity, what they call quality control measures. The Japanese, when Ford, Chrysler, GM turned him down and said they didn't want to hear it. So because he was already an auto executive, he was going on a trip to Japan. He presented it to the Japanese auto manufacturers. This is where your Lexus come from, your Lexus and your Infiniti. So when he presented it to them, they was like, that's the key, because if you go back to before the 70s, and even in the 70s, When you seen something that has a stamp on it said made in America, you knew you had some top of the line A1 best made stuff on the planet. Don't nobody do it like us. But now we doing everything using cheaper material, shortcutting the labor to maximize profits, and is making the products crap. So they stick to the quality dynamic. So they stealing our reputation by stealing our quality productivity ratio that we used to maintain, right? That's the difference in the architecture of old and the architecture of today. Some of these buildings is 20,000, 30,000, 50,000, 100,000 years old. They look like they was built 200 years ago. And some of these new buildings been around 30, 40 years. They look like it's time to tear them down. Right?
That's facts. Hey, now, but now that, okay, this is my next question for you, because we got Trump in there. He rolling out the 20. Well, people say, oh, he went down by paying 2025, but it seemed like to me he rolling it right out, straight out the gate. Now, this real ID thing, you heard anything about that? Because I looked it up and it said May 7th that they'll be rolling out this real ID. And
the real ID came out in 2010. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but it said like they had a mandate on there. I looked it up. I think it was 20.
Go look up what a mandate. You got Google on your
law. Yeah, mandate not a law. I know mandate not a law. Law or request, a mandate or ordinance, a code. None of that. You know what I'm saying? We can get into that if you for my Moors. But I'm saying,
you know, we went over what a mandate is, and I know a lot of the sisters been around for a minute. They don't want no mandate.
They don't want no mandate. All right, we'll go to the next question. So my next question is, because people was asking, because I'm really going off the questions that the people asked in the recent shows. When Ron come back on, asking this. Now, since Trump coming back in and he returning and kind of like returning it to the people. What does Mama Rabbit with her Lodial title and everything? How does that play with all the empresses on the land and the ones that did claim certain things like the Washita tribe? I think it's shout out Empress Wendy.
So right now we don't have we know where all of the tribal leadership is located at, coming through military channels. As part of the continuity of government. This is how they know who to watch for the oral tradition, who to surrender paperwork to. The loyal title don't mean anything to the tribes over here amongst us. The loyal title is Europe's method of keeping track of what they steal and who stole it and when it was stolen, because they got to give it back. Them giving her the title was just letting them know that y'all, the gig is up. Y'all got us. Here's the receipt to show you that you got us. Right? It's the same with the first charter of the Bar Association that tell us that they told them to use the court system to take everything from us. And that's why we can't hardly win no court foreclosures on no fraudulent mortgages. It's all trickery, deception, fraud. 120 degrees of tricknology. Strike the shepherd and scatter the flock. Take the leaders out of in front of the people, and the people be perpetually confused. We ain't confused no more. We know that y'all took our leaders. We know that y'all holding them hostage. I'm not saying they criminals. I'm not saying that they did something wrong for you to put them in prison, because we was at war. And when you at war, you required to do some things that you wouldn't do if you was in peacetime. And if you take away the warrior's right to fight, defend the freedom of the people, you take away the right of the people to have freedom. So we know where they at. We know how you misled them. We know how you caught them when they was young, before they knew who they was, so that you can have them in your custody. You messed around and let one out the cracks.
Right.
You let one of the chiefs out the cracks. And I'm telling all of y'all government business, because once these sisters get it on the gossip circle and these babies understand how it work, y'all screwed. It don't matter what y'all do with me at this point. The baby's got it now, Elder.
That's right. Hey, that's what the mission was, get the kids. Hey, this is my next question, because bringing up kids and, parenthood and things, Trump is going after guys with a child support system. Could you go in on how that system been rigged? Because I heard you go into them a little bit before.
The child support system is what you call arbitrary operations. The friend of the court is not what people think it is. The friend of the court is supposed to be an independent person that carries the significant fact underlying to the elements of truth in the case, and they don't want to take sides with the prosecutor or the defense. They just need the court to know that this piece of information has been looked over, and I'm the only one that got it. I'm going to give it to you, and you do with it what you will. I'm coming as the friend of the court. It has nothing to do with child support. Child support, the Supreme Court of the state arbitrarily creates a collection team, a collection agency, and they insert the collection agency under the responsibilities of friend of the court. Right? Now remember, friend of the court use arbitration, they don't use adjudication. When they call you in for your child support, you got to go before a retired judge. Right? You don't go to court, family court, where juvenile procedures and divorces take place. It's a whole separate building because they don't have nothing to do with the court. It's an arbitrary collection agency. And there's nowhere written in the universe where you in debt because you gave birth or allowed a woman to be pregnant. There's nowhere in the universe. They can't never validate that debt using the Fair Debt Collection Act. The problem is they don't give a damn about your rights. You don't have any. Right? And because they don't have, they say we don't have any rights, and that ain't just us melanated, that's anybody that go in front of a judge in the courtroom. You don't have rights. Because you're not under the Constitution, you're under the Admiralty Uniform Commercial Code of Banking. You're not even in the same nexus and venue of judicial order that you're supposed to be under for violating the laws of the land. And don't say they don't got tribal courts. They all over the place. We just don't use them because we don't know no better. Tribal courts ain't never left.
Brother, that's getting. I heard a lot of different stories, crazy stories that I couldn't even believe that the court would go along, that keep on doing it. But it comes to find out, they said that's $1 billion in some industry, over $1 billion industry a year, stealing money from parents, like, with that child support system. It's $1 billion industry. So
more than that.
Huh?
It's more than that.
Yeah,
a lot of
the exact number, but it was high. That number was high as hell. That they told me, I almost fell out my chair when they said, "Damn, and they said that they make most of the money, like to pay out certain agents within that branch. Like they are, it's like a big Ponzi scheme, big hustle, pretty much, because they only give like 10-20% of the money they collect to the kid.
For a woman to put you on child support, that's the same as calling the police saying you committed a crime that you didn't commit.
Damn. I ain't look at it like that. That's right.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
That's all it is that's part of the feminist movement. That came out of the feminist movement. Most of us don't know. It's a book called Fatherless America. Everybody need to get it. Before the 1950s, the children were traditionally left with the breadwinner, which was normally the father.
Right.
Children didn't start being left with the mother until in divorces and separations, until they came out with something called government assistance. The government assistance was part of the tearing down of the families.
That's right.
Right. So you giving people the right to keep the child away from the other parent. That's not a right. Nobody had a right to keep the child from the other parent. That's not a right.
Right.
Right. The way that you deal with that is you have a family council. Normally it's 3 or 4 women from his side of the family, 3 or 4 women from her side of the family. And then they watch y'all while y'all interact with the children. And the most functional parent is the one supposed to have a child. If he a lazy slob, don't want to work, sit at home, play video games all day, he can't take care of no babies. Right? But if he get up, he go to work, you know what I'm saying, he got a good network of friends that helps him, he can take care of him just as well as she can.
Right.
Right? And it's the same with her. If she sit on the couch eating bonbons, watching soap operas all day, and the house look like a tornado hit it for no reason, then that's defeating the purpose of why she at home. Right? And if everybody have a role to play in the family structure, then everybody's supposed to play their role. The way that the system is designed to take that ability for each member of the family to play their role. Right? We used to have aunties come get the babies for the weekend because mama know where they at. They with her sister, they straight.
Right.
You don't do that no more. Because the aunties now marrying some guys with unsavory characters because they forgot how to vet a man.
That's right. You talking some stuff, bro. And you know another thing that Doc said when Doc was talking about the same thing you talking about, and he said that when they was able on this type of system, they'll say you can't have the man now in order for you to get this from us. We become your man.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
When they was giving those women, especially in the inner cities, Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, Boston, Atlanta, Miami, New Orleans, they used to come in, the social services come in and say, if it's a man in the house, you can't get assistance. It's not going to happen. I remember my father came to visit us and my mom was getting assistance in the 70s. He fucked around and went off and left a pair of shoes. My mama had a fit. Because she knew that them people was coming. I was so glad when we got stable enough to not need them people coming around dipping their nose in our house.
Yes. So when you get assistance from the government, they pretty much tell you, like, they became the father figure. And then not to mention, they probably didn't crack cocaine into our communities, and that made it even worse. On top of the getting the fathers out the house, half of them went to to the crack, and that or the drugs or the liquor, whatever they had us on at the time. So that brings my next question. Now, based on what's going on now with do you got anything on? Because the federal workers were asking me, hey, when Rod come back on, ask him this. They said, should they take a deal? Now, I didn't get a chance to look up what deal they were talking about. They saying the federal workers finna get offered a deal, and they saying, should they take the deal?
They already started sending the letters out, and they're closing down anyway.
Okay.
They downsizing first.
Yeah, that's what she said. She said something about like that. Yeah. They
and
laying people off.
Look, people got to know, they have to be smart enough and can understand their situation enough to know what decision to make. Right? I was surprised when there was no mention of a lump sum payment once the federal government get downsized coming back to those workers. But just like when they canceled the fiat, they attached a 20% interest rate on the people's return of their money for their fraudulent loans.
Dang.
Right? I don't know how far they go back. So far, I think they stopping at 1979 for foreclosures, for giving people back. So that's shit, what? 35 years? 36 years?
No, it's about like from 1979, you said? No, shit, that's more than that's about damn near 40 years almost. Maybe more than it. Well, shit, look, say 30, 25, boom. It'll be 22 plus, it'd be 20, 40, it'd be 46 years, 47 years. Yep.
So that's how far they got going back for that. From what I understand at this point, they might go back further later, but for the bank fraud foreclosures, they at least going back to 79.
That's gonna be a lot of money.
We took everything they had because they owed us everything and they couldn't pay it back.
That's right. That makes sense.
That's why you kept seeing all them trains full of UN confiscated materials. But they had to liquidate that stuff.
That's right. That's right. Trump liquidating right now. He cracking out. He finding all the leaks. Because I see it seems like to me, based on me studying what his cabinet doing since they went in, they going out there seeing who are we paying. Let's see who are we paying. All right, so why are we paying this guy? Why are we paying that guy? That's kind of what they're doing. Why are we paying this guy? You know, why are we paying these guys? And so I guess that brings my next question. Do you see the American economy? Because we know that the government has gone down. So what is the next thing after the government completely go out, switch over, however it go? What goes from there? Would it be a space of chaos where there's no order?
It's not just pure chaos. It's chaotic events.
Okay.
Like a Black Hawk helicopter flying into a passenger plane.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Chaotic events.
Okay.
Like mysterious fires in California. Chaotic events.
Yeah.
People driving down Bourbon Street shooting. Blowing up trucks in Las Vegas. Chaotic events. Kids, schools being shot up. Right. Chaotic events. All these chaotic events is to make us be scared. The stuff for the school shootings is to try to force parents to shut the school system down because they're not safe. Right. But somebody's baby's still getting hurt in them events. You understand what I'm saying, Elder? Somebody's babies is still getting hurt.
Right. Just
because they running these psyops don't mean people not getting hurt for real.
Right. Right.
Right. And whether it's Sandy Hooks, whether it's Oklahoma City, whether it's the World Trade Center, whether it's Trayvon Martin, it's people physically getting taken out of the game.
Right.
For them to keep us fearful. Right.
Psychological warfare, right?
Right. Because if they can kill them, if they can make enough people afraid of them, people not going to resist their BS.
Right.
Right. So they need to instigate fear mongering through these chaotic events, these chaotic episodes. They know they lost. They know they leaving. They just trying to tear the house up on their way out.
Right. Somebody said, "Do you trust Trump?" And I think he already broke that down in so many ways. Do we trust Donald Trump?
Somebody just messaged me something similar in my I was checking some of my messages. I'm behind about 4 days. But somebody asked me about Trump. Look, I don't even know if Trump real. I never met the man. I never shook his hand. But whoever playing that character, whether he's a real person or not, don't matter to me. Because the work that's being done in our face is telling me this is our buck dancing.
And they're not treating them the way they need to be treated. That's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is like, yo, we are different. We have to get treated differently because we are different. We have to, whatever. So, Rod, I want to go historical. I'm not necessarily, because like I said, I don't want to.
Right, I'm with you.
Flag the channel or something like that, but it's just constantly since the time I was born, you always hear about race, black, white. You see Rodney King, you see this. It's when you white, sometimes you could ignore it because you ain't got to go through shit in terms of race-related issues. But when you black, that shit is in your face all the time. You could ignore it and act like you're oblivious to it, or you could accept it and decide whether or not you're gonna triumph over it. Some people don't fall victim to it. Other people, such as myself, says I'm greater than that. I'm literally God incarnate in human form. So not even racism, white supremacy, nothing could stop this train from rolling. So there's different ways of going about it. But Rod, to go way back, I was talking to what's the brother's name? Q Reeves. And he was talking about the root races. I'm trying to figure out, when did all this shit start? How did we even get from spirit to dragon form? Niggas said we was dragons. Then they said we was this. Then we was that. We was green and we was this. That all of a sudden we became brown. Let's talk about the root races a little bit. And I know you told me Madame Blavatsky talked about that. What can you tell me about the root races on planet Earth, Rodriguez?
Okay, I'm gonna give you a good example. You know, you got the sign Bushman, right?
Yeah.
And you got the pygmy. These are two of the oldest root races on the planet. They both little people. They both melanated, but they not the same people. Right? And the Khoisan is a couple thousand years older, I think, than the pygmy or the Twa.
Right.
Right? So we talking first and second root race. When we talking root race, this is how they got us separated in the Darwinian evolutionary theory. Homo sapien, Homo erectus, Homo habilis, Homo Cro-Magnon man. All of these different subgroups are different what they call races. Now I got a sidetrack on the race philosophy because the race is the way the war is being fought. The turn everybody against the ones who is the birthright heirs was the intent. The skin color paradigm was used, but the caste system was applied through skin color. When you remember that they wouldn't have let us into any institutions, Dr. Neely Fuller told us 9 areas of people activity, add health, you got 10, right? They used that race dynamic and superiority and inferiority complexes to control people. Most of us don't know that all of those mulattoes from the South married pale faces in the North when they escaped after the so-called Emancipation Proclamation, right? That's what the whole purpose of that movie, Imitation of Life, is, to show you that a lot of us, we went off path and became big celebrities in Hollywood and on Broadway and some of the plays that traveled the world, right? They was passing.
Give me an example. Somebody was passing. Give me an example.
Elvis Presley, John Wayne, Marilyn Monroe, J. Edgar Hoover. I can sit there and do this until I'm blue in the face. And some of the people, they be like, he wasn't passing. They was passing. Elvis' mama was an octoroon.
They could keep Elvis, man. They could keep Elvis around.
Hey, look, I don't care what they do with him.
But his mom was an octoroon.
Yeah. But because we have to remember that this is God's crucible. What do you do in a crucible, Brother Rich?
What?
A crucible. What is it for? Another name for a crucible is the great melding pot. What do you do in a melding pot?
You mix.
Yeah, you mix metals. In this case, platinum group metals in the human family. The different root races is applied as a different platinum group metal. Right? When our skin color was primarily shades of green and blue, magnesium was the controlling element of the biology. Now that iron is, instead of tarnishing green or shades of blue, we rust brown or shades of brown. Or as my man like to say, shades of wheat.
Right.
We are just shades of wheat. But the oldest genetics has been exposed to the most challenges to the genetics, to the immune system. The longer your genetics been here, the more it has a built up collection of things it can defend against, and the more adaptable the genetic strain is. But that don't make you a better or a worse person. It just make you have a different genetic line than somebody else who probably can't fend off what you can fend off. Without going into some of the stuff. So some of the stuff required in allopathic medicine is not required in homeopathic medicine because you treating from a homeostatic perspective instead of a petro-medical perspective. The petro companies, a lot of the drugs use different stabilizers from fossil fuels, and a lot of the oil reserve goes to medical production, and we don't even know about it. They're extracting parts of the chemical compounds as stabilizers, as lubricants, as to create time-release capsules, all that kind of stuff. They use the petrol fuel. This is what they get their patents on, and this is how they continue to charge you money for your health when they're getting patents on their fossil fuel medications.
Indeed, indeed. I want to take it way back, and I mentioned the term root race, and I mentioned Madame Blavatsky, and I always I hear the majority of people on YouTube mention, because we're trying to figure like, who the hell are we, and why do they hate us so much? Why is there a global conspiracy to where it's like a color cast system, where the darker you are, the more it seems you're suppressed all over the world? Like, how the hell they got the entire globe on lockdown in terms of suppressing melanated people? So in an attempt to understand that, I wanted to go way back, and I hear about the Atlanteans, Rod. I hear about the Lemurians, but there's also the Hyperboreans, and there's also the Polarians. So let's talk a little bit about these root races, Rod. I hear you talk about the Atlanteans a lot in Thoth. I hear you talk about Lemuria. What's up with the Polarians, Rod? How far this shit go? What should we know about the Polarians?
That's Polarians, Tartarians, Hyperboreans. That's all Atlantis.
It's all Atlantis.
Just different people telling the story, and they're calling it something different. Right? When you say Tartarian, that means Western orientation of Rome. Barbary or barbarian, that's Eastern orientation of Rome. Right? So when you're talking Hyperborea, you're talking about north of Rome. But you're still using the Roman frame of reference, and that's the origin of skin-based racism was developed and refined in Rome, rolled out of Notre Dame University as a false narrative.
So it started in Rome, you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah. But the caste scroll, which tells you how to create caste systems, you got to know how to create the caste system in order to make a caste system functional without you. It's the same as they say the Willie Lynch letter. Right? If you read the Willie Lynch letter, they telling you about all of the dynamics of control you can have by using this paradigm of complexes, the inferiority complex, the superiority complex, but they call it to turn the families against each other first. So now they can't get along. So when they go in the streets, they don't know how to get along with the people in the community. Right? So you're creating conditions. You don't have to micromanage people if you can control the conditions that they express themselves in. That's why they always bring up the crabs in the bucket. He's totally out of his nature. He's panicking. That's why he's pulling you back now. Not because he got a innate animosity. He's trying to get free, and he panicking. He don't know where to go because he don't supposed to be in the bucket. He's supposed to be in the vastness of the ocean. Of course he's gonna pull you back down, right? And only intellectualizing being, probably some of the primates and a couple of the dolphins, will figure out, oh, we can't attack each other. They got us in this bucket. But the crab never dawned on him that they can form a crab chain and pull each other out if they knew they was in the bucket. They don't know where they at. They don't know that over the top of the bucket is freedom. They just hoping, like a nigga on the prison yard, hoping that he could be on the other side of the fence.
Rod, what would you I had a conversation with a priestess, I said Ra Men yesterday, about the whole 666 thing, and listening to the teachers like Bobby and they always said that is describing the carbon molecule: 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons. What is the future of the carbon molecule? They're saying that we're going from carbon based to, and I might have asked you this before, from carbon based to what's that word they use, family?
Crystalline.
It's crystalline based. Is this something, if we're going to from carbon to crystalline, are we going back to the future? When were we crystalline before? If we're talking about Atlantis, Lemuria, the Polarians and all that, when was we crystalline beings? At what point in history?
That was during the Atlantis period. That's why crystalline beings and carbon-based beings don't behave the same. Carbon-based beings is more volatile chaos energy.
Oh.
Crystalline is more in line with the, because you got to remember, your DNA is made up of crystal forms of amino acids.
Right.
Crystalline amino acids. That's what make your DNA up. And we was externally focused, which made us skin-based.
Right.
Which was part of the racist doctrine to get you to focus on the skin.
Right.
Crystalline, you more internal based. You looking at everything from the inside out, not the outside in. And now you can see with your spiritual eye, or what they call your crystal eyes, your Ujek and Uraeus, with your higher wisdom and your controlled lower nature. Right? They always tell us about the cobra on the crown, but they never tell us about the vulture. Right? Your lower nature. The vulture is the lower nature that you've conquered. And the cobra is your higher nature that you've mastered. It's two different struggles going on in the individual. And W.B. Bush wrote about it. He called it the warring soul.
Right.
Right, the part of the self that want to go along with society at large, and the part of the self that want to truly express itself from its purest source. Right, so you're talking your spiritual self versus your ego self. Your ego is the sum total of everything that you've ever been told about yourself that may or may not be true, but you accepted it as so because that defined who you was from the external world's perspective. So you're trying to live your life fitting into the perspective of everything you agreed to in your ego, and you haven't even tested it to see if it's compatible with who you are.
Very interesting. Let's go through a couple of historical terms, Rod. We're talking about melanin. We're talking about race. And once again, family, if you're just joining us, there was a Senate hearing with RFK. I advise y'all to go see what's going on. Very interesting things have been happening since Trump has been president. I cannot lie. He's really shaking things up. Some people don't like it. Some people do like it. But things are being shaken up. That's one thing we all could agree on, whether you like it or not like what's going on.
You remember I told you as soon as you take office, everything gonna speed up.
Yeah, you did say that. Indeed. Let's go through a couple of historical terms to try to figure out who we are, where we come from, and how we got here, Rod. Let's talk, and this is a term me and you talk about on the phone. We haven't talked about on the internet, Neanderthals. Now, that was a term, a lot of brothers use that term to insult. I had a conversation with you, and you're like, nah, the black people wasn't Neanderthals. So
when the Neanderthal was present, they was here before the original race called the moon race. Today we call them white people. But back then we used to call them albinos, albions. Right? They wasn't here. If you look up the time frame, matter of fact, I'm gonna go to it so I can tell you. We know from historical record there was no pale faces on planet Earth before 8,400 years ago.
So they're a young race. They got fresh legs.
Yeah, the newest race.
New kids on the block.
Yeah. So the Homo sapiens, the hominin species that existed for at least 200,000 years throughout Europe and Western Asia and disappeared 27,000 years ago. So there was 500 years ago from 27,000. That's about 18,000 years before paleface emerged. The last Neanderthal was here.
Mm.
Right. All peoples on the planet Earth was melanated, and it was intervention in laboratories that caused the lower spectrum of the DNA to outwardly express. Everything that you see in the human arena is on the DNA of the great mother, the first mother. All of your DNA traits, the full spectrum, from your lightest skin to your darkest skin, from your tightest curl hair to your straightest hair, it's all in her DNA. Right? Bobby Hemmings said it was a woman walking around with universes in her uterus. In America.
Mm-hmm.
And when y'all figure out who she is, she's the mother of all of us. She don't take no sides in sibling rivalry. She tell y'all to sort that stuff out, and y'all come to me when y'all know how to act right. We got to get over this racist doctrine because it's a critical mechanism of divide and conquer.
Right.
And as Dr. Neely Fuller said, if you don't understand white supremacy is a military strategy. If you don't understand white supremacy, everything that you think you understand is actually confusing.
Yes. Okay.
White supremacy is codified and called the protocols of the wise men or the learned elders of Zion. And the rollout to it is the morals and dogma of Albert Pike. The battleground is a corporation known as the United States, the interim government for the last hurrah of the Great War.
Which is the Great War, which is
the 6,000-year reign of the people that was antithesis to Earth, the inverted people,
so
from
even
the mirror universe.
So even when we the fifth root race they say is the Aryans. So even the Aryans, original Aryans, were melanated people then.
They still is. The original Aryans, they called them the Untouchables of India. They call them Dravidians. They look like the Jackson Fives from the early 70s. They whole bloodline. Some of them got wavy hair and they dark. Some of them darker than us. Rich, make me and you look light skinned.
Oh man, this is some. All right, so another term. You seen the video with Noble Ampool, and he mentioned Abraham Lincoln. Now, people said he was a Melungian. That's not a term we hear about anymore. What are Melungians, Rod Hayes? And who were the Melungians?
See, there's so many different names. It's hard to keep up with them. That one is not one we use a lot. Yeah, see, those was just another name for mixed people. People that come from a diversified genetic stock. It's like calling them a mutt.
Mulatto, like okay. The current term for that would be mulatto.
No, mulatto, you can be 50%, and you can look heavily melanated or lightly melanated and be a mulatto.
Right.
That means you have 50%. Right, to be a quadroon, meaning you 1/4. To be an octoroon, meaning you 1/8. But remember, the doctrine is 1 drop of blood. Right. So even if you 1/8, you still could classify as so-called black.
Yeah, you mentioned Elvis some earlier. Somebody said Elvis was Melungian. Would you classify him as Melungian, Elvis?
He would easily fall in it. That was the name given to the people that mixed in the Appalachians region.
Right. Indeed. Yeah, this is wow. I'm glad having this conversation with you. Let me ask you, in terms of the when I think you called it the flash flood, or when the ice age.
Yeah, that was after the war. That was the nuclear winter after the last Anunnaki Great Holocaust War.
Okay, a time frame. We're looking at 10,000 years. 10,000 years ago, Rod?
You can just look up the beginning of the last ice age to give you the time frame.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah, so it lasted from about 115,000 to 11,700 years ago.
Damn, the ice age was that long, right?
Yeah.
So what the hell was going on the planet? If there's a whole ice age for 100,000 years, what's happening on the planet at that time?
It was a nuclear winter.
A nuclear winter. And
Yeah.
okay, so this nuclear winter was caused by the Anunnaki.
It was caused by the last Anunnaki's war, what they call the Great Holocaust, also known as the Vimanis War. The Vimanis Sutras write about it. Those were the Aryan races in India who was writing about it back then, and they left the text to tell some of the story, but it was more than them that tell the story.
Damn.
They only give you bits and pieces, like in the Bible, Sodom and Gomorrah. They don't tell you that was a nuclear disaster.
Sodom and wow.
Then you got the remnants of nuclear war all over Saharan Africa.
Yeah.
You know, in the pyramid complex, the Mediterranean is filling in a crater from a bomb. Mount Vesuvius was blown because the crater began to leak into the inner earth, so they had to patch it with the lava from Mount Vesuvius. Then you had the Gulf of America, formerly known as the Gulf of Mexico, as a crater. That's not even a secret. They already know that's part of regular science. Meteor struck where the Mediterranean is. Meteors? Those was atomic bombs.
Who was the Anunnaki beefing with? At the
They
time,
fighting each other. They was having sibling rivalries in a fight for dominance within an internal family, and they used people like chess pieces to play the war out in the open, in the general population. So you got them controlling the war by nobody not knowing that the war is taking place. But the ultimate end game is to wake up from the slumber of the Piscean age in the artificially induced nuclear winter in order for us to come back to our senses as to who we were as eternal beings. We always been, we gonna always be, but we didn't always have bodies. Meat modems, Earth rovers.
Since we're so familiar with this vehicle, we call the Earth rovers. We done had some good shows about this vehicle we call the human body, right? I mean, we done did about 4 or 5 different segments on it, man, and just touched on it from different angles, man. It's been dope. What vehicle did we use before the human body, Rod?
We whole like when you're not in the physical body, you was called a whole light being. Or etheric being.
I thought you was gonna say something like dragons or some shit like that, Rod.
No, dragon is a metaphor, comparative analysis. It don't mean dragons didn't exist. But when you say we dragons, that means we spit fire when we talk. We masters, we high chiefs. Right? Dragon mean master. Master with the power to control and speak into existence of things. Was commonly referred to in Kemet as Husia, exceptional or authoritative utterance, exceptional insight. That make you a dragon.
Yeah, y'all. This is the man. So, all right. So when all right, the nuclear winter thing, that is a very interesting part of history that a lot of people don't know about. When the nuclear winter was coming to an end, and on Google it says the ice age ended around 11,000 years ago. What's the civilization that popped up on the scene? The first civilization once this nuclear ice age ended, Rod, this nuclear winter.
Okay, so Atlantis was still operational. It's just a lot of its metropolises had been rendered useless through warfare, right? So now we coming from out of the Ice Age, 11,000 years ago, and this is when you see the rise of Kemet,
Ah.
the onset of modern history, the settling of Samaria, right? So all it is, like if you go back to the first dynastic period, that's not the first dynasty. They had kings lists with kings that lived and ruled for thousands of years because we was living back then. It was called the forever time or the Tepi, I think is how you pronounce it. Right, the eternal time, the time where the physical body, if you had a proper diet, you could homeostasis set in and you know how to maintain the balance, then your body could live for a prolonged time. And then you had the aid of secondary avatars to use too. While this one getting repaired in the sarcophagi, I could get up in another body and walk around like I ain't in there getting worked on.
Ain't that some shit? So it's gonna go back to that, Rod?
We still had the technology. It was just frozen in Antarctica. They got it now.
They got the technology in Antarctica.
Yeah. Yeah. They thought them people out. They the ones telling them all the moves to make. They thought when Richard Burton went down to Antarctica to see what they was doing down there, he discovered that it was frozen over. It was flash froze. People was in the middle of the street. They never get to move. They walking down the street in motion and frozen. That means they was frozen instantly. Now they need to know how to throw them out. This is where they get the cryostasis from. We ain't know nothing about no cryostasis until we got there messing with the people in Antarctica. They frozen and telepathic at the same time. Let that sink in.
Woo. Yo, family, ain't this is some interesting? This is the history that is heavily suppressed.
Listen, when they thawed them out, they told us over here that these people came from Africa and adapted extremely well to the cold of Antarctica. And they called them the Bazinga tribe. That's some BS. They was already in Antarctica, and they already told them how to thaw them out. They already had this technology. This is nothing new. Nothing new under the sun, Brother Rich. We did all of this stuff a bazillion times. But it was the same but different every time.
Right. The same but different every time. You know what I think is confusing, Rod? All right, so the shit you talking about, Rod, and I always be like, yo, Rod, you be saying some out of this world shit, Rod. And you talking about, nuclear winners and Anunnaki beings and people being able to use different avatars, different bodies. I think what's confusing to melanated people in particular, I think white people could gravitate, when I'm quote, white, black, they could grasp concepts easier sometimes because of their lack of, I guess, indoctrination. Like we were indoctrinated with religion. Everything is just evil to us. Everything is the devil to us. And
that's the barrier of fear.
Yeah. And but this is what I was gonna say. Some of our master teachers, Rod, like let's say Dr. Ben, let's say Dr. John Henry Clark. They didn't say the stuff you saying. So when you come after them, right? And I'm not even talking about Dr. York now. Let's just say Dr. Ben, Dr. John Henry Clark. When you come after them and say this stuff, the first thing people think is, well, hey, the master teachers, Dr. Ben, Dr. John Henry Clark, Ivan Van Sertima, so on and so forth. They didn't say it. So this dude has got to be out his MFM mind because they didn't say it. So my thing is like, why you think they didn't talk about some of this stuff?
A lot of the stuff I'm talking about, they make mention of.
Okay.
Right. When we starting at history beginning, modern history, right, at the first dynasty of Egypt. That's when we got the first clock. of modern time.
First dynasty of Egypt.
Right. So, because this is the standard of history. Anything before that is called antediluvian history.
Antediluvian. Yeah.
Which means before the flood.
Right.
Which means when the ice finally melted from the artificially induced nuclear winter, the melting of the ice caused mud to be everywhere. It wasn't a literal flood; it was frozen.
So it wasn't a literal flood like how we think it was.
No, everything was frozen, and then when the nuclear winter, it can't break until it cleaned the radiation up enough. This is what switches your genetics, by the way. Radiation is what causes the unnatural change in DNA. And this is what caused us to go from magnesium-based to iron-based. Because we was originally breathing ozone, the double O oxygen molecule. Now we breathe in the single oxygen molecule. So it changes the rate of combustion in the biology. When we using magnesium, right, we giving off radiant shades of blue and green. We look like that movie, The Avatar, except we not tall. With tails, we standing around with blue skin and afros, blue skin and straighty hair. But we all had shades of blue to green. This is why you see that Osiris is olive green. You see Krishna is baby blue. Sometimes he's navy blue. Kali Ma, she's blue, almost black. So the different shades